of a formal introduction, I can tell by the screens of red skin when I'm speaking. Let me give you more of a personal introduction. 2009, myself and another Marine were in a rehab platoon due to third injuries sustained during training. Myself as my partner, Chad, I believe, had a hip situation. Is that right?
Shoulder.
Shoulder attachment, yes. So as time goes on, Chad and I, we blended pretty well together because of, I believe, our demeanor, maybe our backgrounds and whatnot in the area that we grew up in. Therefore, we kind of clicked. However, with the Marine Corps, and as much as the military wants us to stay together, the Marine Corps thought it was ready to send us different units. So I was 1-5, Chad first LAR. Now it's 2009. We talked a couple times in that rehab platoon, and then that was it. And then 12 years later, if my math is correct, it's not. 11 years later, this big old tall guy walks into the gym and wants to walk down the better down the field. He started climbing with us in September, I believe, and he's been with us ever since. He's been almost every climbing session we've had. Him and I spoke, and I said, "You look familiar," and he said the same thing to me. Long story short, about 11 years earlier, we found out that we were in the rehab team together at in the Marine Corps at Camp Pendleton. So for us to connect 11 years later out of the blue, it's a pretty fantastic story. It kind of meant to happen. Him and I have become very close friends. We've hung out for climbing events. We've also hung out on other events as well. Chad's helped me professionally. I believe I've helped him out a little bit professionally because attitude, demeanor, confidence, trust levels all seem to go up since we've been our reintroductions. But he's a great guy. He's a good climber and a great Marine. And I'm happy to present Mr. Chad Rairie, our speaker for today. So give him a hand.
I thought Kathy was going to give you a standing ovation there.
That's not necessary. So my name is Chad Rairie. I've been coming for a few months now, and one thing that Zach and Carl tell me every time I ask them what to do when I climb, they say, just go up. So given the simplicity of that, I'll start the story at the beginning. So 2003, graduated high school. I was in high school when 9/11 happened, thought I would join the Marine Corps. Listened to my parents, and they were like, hey, don't do it. There's a war on. Go ahead and go to college first. And I was like, sure, I'll go to college. And a year and a half into college, I dropped out. So wasn't a great student in high school. Was an even worse student in college. And I think I left with like a 1.5 GPA after doing a term abroad and having way too much fun down in Sydney, Australia. And so for me, school wasn't exactly my path. And so a few years later, I joined the Marine Corps. I was 23 at the time. I had been running my own business. It had a lot of potential. I had a lot of potential, but I didn't know how to harness that. And so I joined the Marine Corps to make a big change in my life. My dad wasn't the greatest guy, and our family name had a lot of stigma in my hometown. And so part of joining the Marine Corps was to change my family's reputation. Part of it was just to change who I was at that time. So like I said, I own my own business, yet I failed to pay my brother rent. I was making a lot of money and driving a nice car, but my personal life was a complete mess. And so I joined the Marine Corps in 2008, met up with Zach a couple months later in the rehab platoon. I had torn a couple tendons in my shoulder before I even got to my unit. And then when I finally got there, they said, hey, you're going to deploy to Afghanistan, which was the reason why I joined, so I was perfectly fine with that. The picture in the center there is my niece. She was a year and a half at the time. And there's kind of a cute recording that I didn't work into the skit. My sister asked her what I was doing, and she's like, oh, he's in Afghanistan. And she goes, why is he there? To shoot the bad guys. So I didn't actually get to shoot any bad guys, but we chased them a heck of a lot. And so the top left picture is a picture of my first deployment. All the Marines that went on that, this was one of those guys from that photo. The bottom left is my second deployment. One of our guys had a huge thing for all the British magazines. And so he thought that if we took a picture with one of their t-shirts, they would throw us the magazine. Didn't happen, but we did see some other units that made the magazine. And then, just to keep it light in Afghanistan, there's a little bit of golf up on the top right. So if any of the golfers there, we did get to play some golf in Afghanistan. I think Callaway sent us 10,000 golf balls. It was like 3 pallets worth of golf balls, and then a couple clubs. And all the officers hit them, and we snuck out and played a little bit while we were there during our downtime. So Afghanistan, for those of you who haven't been there, it's pretty desolate. There's not a whole lot there. Everything that's green is right around the river, and other than that, it's pretty much desert and mountains because it's the base of the Himalayas. So there's a few pictures here. The top left is some construction that we did. We put in that water wheel for the local village to get them some flow in their canal. That was a lot of my work. It was either security for local villages, or we would also do just kind of engagements to try to make sure that we were protecting the locals from the Taliban. They had a bit of, the Taliban would come in at night and kind of harass them and tell them, hey, you've got to give us shelter or put in IEDs for us. And the locals, some of them who were brave would tell us that the next day when we were there, and others wouldn't. And so it was just kind of a shell game of trying to figure out who we could trust and who we. But a lot of my deployment was spent, like the bottom 2 pictures to the left that are me wandering around with a saw, my first one, and then the bottom right, the far bottom left. That picture was taken, I think, day 87 of 89 outside the wire. No showers, no cleaning, just us camping in our vehicles in the middle of the field, hoping that we would see people coming if they were bad guys. So, yeah, longest I've ever gone without a shower is 89 days for those of you on the carousel. I don't recommend it. We smelled something fierce. Pictures on the top left. So that's an LED. Light armor reconnaissance is supposed to be a reconnaissance unit that goes out and kind of plots the path for where tanks are going to go, for where heavy vehicles are going to move in the country. We never actually did that job. We spent all the time walking around the fields, twisting our ankles, and talking to locals. Bottom left was Christmas. I instigated decorating our vehicle and taking a platoon picture. So that picture was taken on Christmas morning, and 11 days later, 17 of those guys would be life flighted out after hitting an IED. So the top left picture is what the IED did to the first vehicle. We had 2 detainees in the vehicle with 7 of our guys, and then as we reacted to that, another vehicle struck an IED, and then we had a 3rd vehicle strike an IED. So we went from Christmas and kind of everybody celebrating to 10, 15 days later, 17 of those guys were in the hospital. 15 of them came back to us while we were there and continued the deployment. 2 of them were sent home. My driver had a broken back, and then one of the other guys had broken his jaw. So those guys got to go home a little early. But I do stay in contact with them. They're both doing well now. Because our vehicles aren't really meant for Afghanistan and we weren't doing the recon, they actually gave us the bottom left vehicle. That vehicle is meant to sustain IED blasts. So it flipped over on its side, we brought the wrecker out, they stood it back up, and the vehicle kept going. So the change in the type of vehicles in our technology is amazing. And nobody got hurt in that vehicle when it flipped. So it's kind of amazing how far we've come. So we'll fast forward to 2012. I served my second deployment going all the way until May of 2012. I thought I was going to stay in for life. I think Zach thought he was going to stay in for life too when he joined. And needs of the Marine Corps were not my needs. And so after my second deployment, I decided to get out. I thought I'd go to school and I had much better potential to have a career outside of the Marine Corps. I came here to Dallas. I moved into the colony, into an apartment. I started going to college and just trying to follow a path. And I think the Marine Corps life is so structured that when you get out and you have your own choices, they can be overwhelming. So what I did was I put a plan together to go to school. And I put a plan for where I was going to transfer. And so I moved here. I went to College out in Frisco. right after they had opened up the Frisco campus. Got a 3.5 and decided I was going to transfer to Dartmouth, which had been a dream school. But like I said, in high school, I was a 1.5 student, or 1.9 in high school and a 1.5 GPA student in college. So Dartmouth was just a pipe dream for me. It was never going to happen based on how I acted before the break. So I came here, I got a 3.5 and got accepted to Dartmouth. The top picture is my acceptance letter. The bottom left is an interview that I did for Colin to promote them because I was so grateful for the opportunity that I had to go to school and succeed. So, you know, I'm very grateful to the community there and all the support that they provided me early on. Bottom middle is the Heroes Project. So when I was here in 2012, Chris Kyle had just been killed. His charity was Heroes Project. I think they had a different name back then. It used to be Fitco or something like that. But I hung out with those guys when I was here and going to school, and it gave me an outlet. They gave me other veterans to talk to, a lot like the funding program does now. Gave me support, gave me people who I knew were on my side. And so the far left picture is a picture of us carrying the load here on the Katy Trail. If you haven't done that, basically you put a pack on your back where you can go without the pack, and you just walk the Katy Trail endlessly until I think it's 20 hours. You do as many miles as you can, and so we got a group together and we did 50 pound packs, and I think I got to 14 miles before my feet blistered, and I dropped the pack and then did another 14 miles. So it was a good trip, but it was time to move on. And I think one of the funny things about getting into Dartmouth was I was denied by every single school in Texas. Yet I got accepted to 6 Ivies. I got accepted to Stanford, Pepperdine, but Texas told me no, and SMU was actually kind of mean about it. But we'll see if I get my revenge on SMU. I have a program that I'm supposed to be joining in May, which could be interesting. So once I got to Dartmouth, the top middle picture is my first day at school, and I don't know if you can see in the shadow, there's my suitcase as I was moving into my dorms. So I stopped, took a picture of Baker Library. It's the tallest building in town. Nothing's allowed to be built taller than that for whatever reason, local ordinance. But the library is where I would spend about 40 to 50 hours a week for the next 3 years of my life. So when I was in Dartmouth, I knew I wasn't a great student, so I spent all my time in the library and treated it exactly like a job. I got up in the morning, ate breakfast early, went to the gym, went to class, sat in the library between classes, went back to class, back to the library, and I'd be there until about 6 or 7 at night, go eat dinner, and then go home and study more. Since Marines struggle with reading, it seemed fitting that I had to be in there a lot. While I was in school, I joined a fraternity, and that was just me trying to find a way to connect with my new life. So at this point, I still wasn't sure how much I had transitioned. I had been out about a year, still having some PTSD reactions and struggling a bit with that, and not knowing exactly where I fit in. So I got into an Ivy, but I didn't feel like I fit there. And I think the point where I really knew that was I joined the fraternity. About 3 months later, they're like, "Hey, we're planning spring break," and they said, "You know, we're going to go to Punta Cana. You should come." And I was like, "I don't even know where that is." And they're like, "That's in the DR." Again, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, "The Dominican Republic. We're all going." I was like, "Okay, how much is it?" And they're like, "Oh, I think it's like $7,000 for the week." I was like, "Yeah, you guys are in a different world from me. I'm struggling to put together, you know, my $20,000 a year that I owe for school." Dartmouth was $72,000 a year. I got the GI Bill plus yellow ribbon and some other things to cover about $60,000 of that per year, and the rest was out of pocket. But it was manageable, and we'll talk a little bit later about what I do now to help other veterans get into school, based on things that I learned there. But to feel more like part of the group, I painted the entire basement, so there's a picture there with the red dragon on it. Painted our our fraternity crest down in the basement with a couple of the guys, mentored some of them while I was there, and really had some great opportunities while I was in Dartmouth.
You were in Ida?
I was, yeah.
Me too.
So there we had to go local, so we were Beta Alpha Omega instead of Beta Theta Phi. So the picture on the top right, while I was at Dartmouth, I had 3 of the 11 surgeries I've had since I got out of the Marine Corps. So the picture there, I had just run a race for the mother of a Marine we lost on my first deployment. Deborah lives down in Houston. She got breast cancer diagnosis in 2003, right after she got her U.S. citizenship. And some of us put together some different efforts to try to raise money for her. I had been growing out a beard since November, and my goal was like, oh, grow it until we reach $15,000. And I think it was March, and I was going, this beard's getting too long. I need to do something different. So I committed to run 50 miles back here in Dallas to carry the load. And I told my surgeon that, like, hey, I've got a commitment that I need to do. I'm going to run this charity race. And he goes, you know, how far is it? And I said, oh, it's 50 miles. And I think he heard 5. He's like, yeah, you'll be fine. You're not going to do any damage. No more damage. It's already done. And so I got back and I told him, like, yeah, I just ran 50 miles. And he goes, you're an idiot. We're doing the surgery. You can do it Wednesday or you can do it next week. So I had my surgery. And that picture was taken 3 days later. I was doing a charity. I had a 10K scheduled. So I did it in a wheelchair instead of running like I had committed to. But that one was just a fun day. Those are a couple of fraternity guys that I was working with while I was there, mentoring. Great guys. The one on the right is a doctor. The one on the left works on Wall Street and makes 10 times as much money as I do now. I think it's like 26 now. So everything was going great. I was sky high. I'm going to graduate in Dartmouth, doing all my charity runs, getting everything going. And then thought I had a job lined up. Turned out they reneged on the offer letter that they sent me. So I had graduated early from Dartmouth. I went 10 straight quarters, worked through as quickly as I could, graduated in March, had to walk in June, and thought I had a job lined up, and then no job. And so I moved into the picture on the bottom left corner. That was a party room at the fraternity. So it was reserved for having sororities over, and everyone would get into that room and drink and hang out. I threw a bed in it and took it over for about 5 weeks until they all said, hey, I need that room back. We want to have parties. And so I moved up to the farm in the top middle picture. Friends' parents had a farm that they owned but didn't live on, and they needed somebody to take care of it. So I spent about 2 months taking care of that farm until I could walk to graduation. And the whole time I was looking for jobs. And driving around the interviews in a shirt and tie and trying to find a job and getting lots of those letters in the center that said, hey, you're a good candidate, you're just not ours. And so I graduated from an Ivy League and then ended up homeless. And I never really thought of it as homelessness. I thought, like, I'm going to find a job, it'll be fine. But it took me 6 months to find a job, even having graduated from a top tier school. And so I think it's something I hadn't really thought about, but now when I see the stats on homelessness, I'm like, yeah, it's easy. It can happen to any of us if we're not careful. And so in order to try to recover from that and kind of bring myself back mentally, I started playing volleyball again. I had played a year of sand volleyball when I was dropping out of college the first time and had a lot of fun doing it, so I came back to it. I actually played a tournament last night and got to the quarterfinals, and I don't think I got home until about 12:30. So I still do it, I have fun. Not great at it anymore, but it keeps me sane, and then I climb 3 days a week with Carl and Zach, and I think I've always been best when I'm physically exhausted. I think it just takes away some of the mental strain of things that are stuck in my head or things that I can't move past. So I tend to try to do that. Zach told me that he wants me to play golf with him. And so the top left picture is a picture of myself and my 4 brothers, 3 in-laws and 1 real. Went to Hawaii and got to play the plantation course there on Maui. And so that was a fun little trip. But once I finally found a job, ended up in DC working construction management. Don't ask me how I got that job because I don't know. I don't know what my skills were. It was a bit of networking through Dartmouth. But I realized that, once I got that job, I started thinking about what are my skills? Well, in the Marine Corps, it's glorified project management. I'm in charge of 8 people, telling them where to go and what to do. I manage, $2 million in equipment, or if I'm commanding the vehicle with about $50 million worth of equipment. Construction isn't all that different. You're managing a bunch of people, telling them where to go and when, managing the budget. And so I got into that, and I spent a year and a half putting up 15-story and 10-story buildings in the DC area. There's a couple projects here. So the top left was a parking garage and a Trader Joe's that was getting built, and a 7-story apartment. And when I left that project, we were on time. And then they made some major screw-ups afterwards, which delayed that project 2 years. Middle picture is a 15-story building. I was up on the roof. I am terrified of heights. I tell the second car all the time, I'm like, I don't like heights. But had to do it for the job, so that's the view from 15 stories in Alexandria. And then, the other picture is just the construction that I was dealing in. After that, or while I was doing that, I started to get involved with some nonprofits for veterans through Dartmouth. And so all these photos are pictures of myself with other veterans at Dartmouth events. So we had the top middle was a football game at Fenway. That is 3 generations of Marines. The woman in the middle, the picture next to me, is she was a CIA agent who worked at Dartmouth. She unfortunately passed a couple years ago. Was one of my mentors. And then the far left is one of my best friends from Dartmouth. His name is Link Spalding. He is 89 and Marine. He served, so he graduated Dartmouth in the 50s and 56, and then had served in the Marine Corps after that as an officer. And Link and I stay in contact. I talk to him about once every 2 weeks. But that was one of my ways to get through Dartmouth, was to connect with other Marines who were there. Thought was a picture at Yankee Stadium. I think it was Dartmouth Princeton that played there. That was taken about 2 years ago, just before the pandemic. And had a lot of fun that night. But I do a lot of work with veterans trying to get into Dartmouth, veterans getting into different colleges. But that's some of my work that I get to do and enjoy. And then, of course, one Marine Corps ball photo. So that actually is, that Marine Corps ball happens every year at Dartmouth at the hotel across the street. There's about 90 Marines that live in the local Upper Valley, and they all get together and have a Marine Corps ball every year. So it's a good time, and it kind of kept me sane. So after my time at the construction firm ended, I decided to go work for DoD for a while. And I got to be a consultant with DoD, and a lot of my job was in acquisitions. And so I was managing what the Department of Defense was going to buy for nuclear, chemical, and bio advancements that were made in the country. And so part of that was to travel overseas. I got to go to Prague, to a lot of areas in Eastern Europe, and then there's a few pictures from my trip to England. My last trip while I was there. And my last trip to England, I took the weekend off to go up and watch a Liverpool game. I'm a big Liverpool fan. And then we got to go to the bunker that Churchill worked in throughout World War II. And so the top left photo is Churchill's chair and his box inside the bunker, and it's a closed room that you get to walk by from the outside if you schedule a tour a couple months in advance. My boss was about 15 from the top at the Department of Defense, and so he got us inside the room to walk around, and if you walk up to the chair, there's actually a notch in the chair from where Churchill would tap his ring on the arm of the chair. There's about a 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch divot in the side of the chair from him tapping on it with his ring. The bottom left picture was the math room, and I took that photo from a couple inches away. So I think the neatest part about that trip and learning about how Britain dealt with World War II was, and I'm a huge history buff, every one of those pinprick dots in that photo is a full convoy that was traveling with materials during the war. And that section right off the coast of Gibraltar, right in the Straits going into the Mediterranean, they had to patch that over. So there's a triangle patch there where they had punched so many holes in it, they had to patch the map and put that in. So my time with the Department of Defense was awesome. I got to do a lot of international travel. Got to speak to some really high-level people in the Department of Defense and learn a lot about how our military works. But again, it wasn't quite for me. And so this last year, I joined Accenture. Decided to go a new way and get out of government contracting and back into the private sector. And that brought me back to Dallas. And so when they offered me a job and said, hey, you get to pick one of these 5 cities. I picked Dallas #1, I think Houston was #2, and then there were a few others in the Midwest that I never lived in. But Dallas was my #1 pick. So I moved here the week before the pandemic and bought a house and decided to make a big move and move forward. I've been working with Accenture for just over a year, coming up on a 1.5 years now. And I do big corporate mergers and help large businesses merge with each other and work out all of their process flow plans. And it's great, but I'm realizing still that it's not quite my passion. It's not what drives me. And so I've kind of moved all over the country doing different jobs and trying out different things. And I think part of my transition process is realizing, what I want to do isn't what I'm doing professionally. And so, what I've started to do is take more time to work on myself and really hone that aspect of my life and try to find where I want to be. And so I committed to the climbing group and got LEED certified, and that was just before I fell. I think I took a screenshot of Zach's video of me falling off the wall, which is something I'm terrified of.
I'll put the video on the MVA Facebook page for those.
I think I don't know if that was the time where I hit Tyler's shoulder with my knee. But no,
I think that one it was.
It might have been that one. So the picture top right is the Ivy League Veterans Council, and something I did while I was at Dartmouth was work with some of the other Ivies and the veterans that are at those schools. And the guys from Columbia really took it upon themselves to create the group, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And they started the Ivy Veterans Council, or Ivy League Veterans Council. And that's a group of veterans, about 40, that work to help other veterans get into top tier institutions. And so really it's a way for them to connect and work out issues that are going on at their college, things that they're struggling with, whether it's not knowing how to apply the Yellow Ribbon program, or having preferences that hurt veterans, or not getting transfer credits. There's a lot that goes into the admissions process that is complicated, and it's different at every single school. And so that group is meant to kind of bring those people together, those veterans together, and help them figure out, how to make their school better for veterans. So I'm really proud of getting to be a part of that. And then I decided that I was going to start my own business to help counsel veterans. So I do my Accenture job 9 to 5, and it's really more like a 7 to 6 o'clock job, as Zach will attest to. I'm routinely late to climbing. But I do that during the day, and then my free time is spent helping other veterans get into college. So last week I had 2 veterans get into grad school. One will be going to Booth, the other one will be going to Kellogg. I had 8 veterans to interview for Dartmouth this week. So need to get all those scheduled and deal with that. But like I said, I think the more time I spent professionally post Marine Corps, the more I realized that what I enjoy doing is helping other veterans. And so if I can help them get into college, if I can help them, you know, it doesn't have to be an Ivy. If they go to Texas Tech rather than going to, you know, ITT Tech, I'm happy about that. And so that's kind of the focus and where I've been going lately. And the top left, just a neat friendship and mentor that I've made is President James Rairie, President Emeritus. So he is the former president of Dartmouth College. He helped me get into Dartmouth College back in 2013. I'm pretty sure he called the admissions department and asked them to look at my resume again, or look at my application again and help me get in. But he's been a mentor for the past, coming on 8 years. He wrote the post 9/11 GI Bill. He wrote the Yellow Ribbon Program with a few other people. And he is the reason that so many veterans are able to go to private schools now, because the VA will pay an additional amount. Whatever the school is willing to sponsor, the VA will match that. I think up to $15,000. So that could be an extra $30,000 a year that a veteran can use to go to school if they get accepted into a top school. And so being with him has been a great experience on my life, a great impact on me. And so I was happy to have him come to the events. And then the last thing, the Veteran in Residence program. So as part of starting my business, I was looking to figure out how to make that more successful. And I don't know if I lucked into the program, but I applied to the program and was accepted to a partnership with a nonprofit that works with veterans to increase entrepreneurship within the veteran community. It's called Bunker Labs. They partnered with WeWork, and so I have an office down in downtown Dallas in the Thanksgiving Day building, and I'm able to go down there anytime I want to go work on my business and try to make it better. And then they bring in speakers and talk to us every week about different aspects of business. It's a cohort model, so there's 8 of us who are local businesses here in Dallas who are part of that, and we connect twice a week to talk about things that are challenging us in our business, how to get service-disabled veteran-owned business status, how to do government contracting, kind of everything that you need to really work through starting your own business. And so it's been a great help to me the past 6 months, and hopefully the next program I'm applying for I will get, and I'll be able to update everyone in a few months if I get that one. But Carl, thank you for the letter for that program. I have my interview on the 6th, so hopefully it'll go well. But I think, the overall is, I went from being a terrible high school student, terrible college student, to joining the Marine Corps and really making a change in my life. And that offered me the opportunity to be successful in everything else I've done. I wouldn't have gone to Dartmouth if I hadn't joined the Marine Corps, because I didn't have the self-discipline. And I realized that college for me was just a discipline. If I realized that I could put my mind to it and follow through and actually accomplish it, it wasn't that hard. I treated it exactly like a job. I spent 50 to 60 hours a week going to school. And the way that I've been successful in my career and been able to work at, all the amazing places that I have, is that I treat it just the way I treat school. It's a job. I show up. I may not like what I'm doing that day, but I'm going to work through it. And I'm going to push to do the best job that I can. And now it's opening up opportunities for me to do something that I'm more passionate about, and I'll eventually get to transition to that. And so, I think there's a lot of aspects of life that are difficult, but if you put in the work, you put in the hard effort, you can make anything happen. So, thank you all very much.
Might have questions for Jeff?
Yeah. So, when you work with veterans to, you know, get them to college? Do you help them with paperwork? Do you help them, like, you know, maybe a little bit broader on, you know, that process?
Yeah.
And is it all branches? Is it the Marines? You know, so.
So I work with all branches, they can be active duty or they can be a veteran, doesn't matter to me. If they've gone to college, usually I'll talk to them about the transfer process, which is a little bit more complicated. If they haven't gone to college at all, I talk to them about setting up a plan. I focus more on fit of the college, so I mentioned I got into multiple schools. Harvard was a terrible fit for me. Columbia was a terrible fit for me, and that's because they were in a city, and I knew that I didn't care very much about school. So if I were living in New York City or in Boston, somebody offered me a job my sophomore year and said, "Hey, you can make $100,000 doing this, you know, for this corporation as a Marine," I would jump at that in a heartbeat. So instead, I isolated myself out in the woods with 4,000 other kids, about 2 hours from a major city, and that helped me study. And I was able to really focus on school out there without distraction. So I also knew that I needed a small class size. And my average class size in Dartmouth was about 15 because I took most of the seminars. And so I talked to students about what will make you successful in college. Yes, the application process, yes, transfer credits. I try to help them with how to afford it and understanding what the GI Bill will and won't cover, what other scholarships are available to them. So there is a process to it. It takes a while, but I generally start talking to students 3 to 6 months out from application time, and working with them on choosing what schools they want to go to, evaluating those schools, how to compare them against each other, because colleges don't make that easy, and then helping them understand the commitment that they're making in going to school and how it will affect them.
Do you find that most people you're working with are younger people, or is it, you know, older, you know, that's maybe it's been in a while, but they've decided to get out or something like that?
So I'd say most of the veterans I work with were even active duty or somewhere between 23 and 25. I was 27 when I went to school, so guys have been in 8 years, 10 years. I work with them too. My last year in Dartmouth, we had a guy coming in who was 50. And so he was using the GI Bill coming in at 50 to go to college. So I'm happy to work with any veteran who needs the support. A lot of it's just Q&A for me. They ask me like, "Hey, I don't know how to do this. What do I do?" And so I'm starting to make some tutorial videos and work through things like that to push out to a broader audience. And now I'm even doing grad school, which I haven't even attended yet. So the one thing I do know is college admissions, so it makes it a little bit easier.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else have questions? If I got any.
Chad, let me give you one to count 2 points, and we'll get a picture with Mr. Zach here.